Welcome to the Wicket.
Hello and welcome once again to your favourite cricket chat at The Wicket, the podcast brought to you by Arab News. I'm your host, Brian Murgatroyd, and with me as ever to discuss what's happened in the sport, locally in the Gulf, regionally in Asia and worldwide, Arab News columnist Jon Pike and Arab News cricket reporter Subas Humagain. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Brian, and hello, Subas.
Hi, Brian. Hi, John.
And in this show, we look back at the final week of group matches in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup and ahead to the semi-finals. We reflect on a remarkable first test of a three-match series between Pakistan and England in Multan that was submerged by records and saw England secure an incredible win. There were landmarks aplenty in India's 2020 International Series demolition of Bangladesh, and we look back at what the new-look India side achieved. We look ahead to the India-New Zealand and Bangladesh-South Africa Test series that are upcoming. We chat about the first match of the West Indies white ball tour of Sri Lanka that's done and dusted. We look forward to the Asian Cricket Council's T20 Emerging Asia Cup, with the 5 leading men's teams in the region set to face off against the UAE, Hong Kong and Oman in Muscat. And on top of that, as ever, Subas and John tell us what's caught their attention in the world of cricket in the recent past. Plenty to discuss then, as ever, so let's get cracking. We begin with the ongoing ICC Women's T20 World Cup in the United Arab Emirates, the tournament involving the top 10 international sides in the women's game. As we record this podcast, the semi-final lineup has just been confirmed with, from Group A, Australia and New Zealand progressing, the latter at the expense of India and Pakistan, who both had hopes going into the final group match, while in Group B, it's West Indies and South Africa going through at the expense of England. There were 3 teams in that group, all with 3 wins and 1 loss, but England's loss in the final group match against West Indies proved decisive. The 3 were locked together on net run rate, but it was West Indies topping the group, South Africa second, and England missing out. So the last 4 will be Australia versus South Africa in Dubai on Thursday, October the 17th, and a day later, New Zealand facing West Indies in Sharjah, with the final on Sunday the 20th of October, again in Dubai. Let's start with the defending champions Australia, who've once again moved forward with flying colours, and that despite the fact that against Pakistan, they lost both fast bowler Taylor Valemic with a dislocated shoulder and captain Alyssa Healy to a foot injury. That meant a hurried rejig ahead of the crunch match against India in Sharjah, but to Australia it seemed like water off a duck's back as they came through in that match by 9 runs to ensure they remained unbeaten going into the semi-finals. John, what is there left to say about Australia? Even in the face of adversity, they were superb against India. There were so many highlights of that win at a packed Sharjah stadium. But for me, they were Phoebe Litchfield's direct hit from cover to run out Risha Ghosh. There was Megan Schutt's 1 run over in the 17th over of the innings, and Annabelle Sutherland's nerveless final over, defending 14 runs with ease. What did you make of it?
Well, I accord with those 3 highlights, especially Litchfield's brilliance. She was my player to watch out for, but she's had limited opportunity with the bat. However, her 15 not out, including a last ball flat 6, proved the difference between the 2 totals. It's also good to see a packed crowd. Australia really do have a nerveless mentality and pressured India into some poor running between the wickets. And I'd add to your highlights, Beth Mooney's stumping.
Yes, she was outstanding as well, filling in behind the stumps for Alyssa Healy. Subas, though, the truth of the matter, it seemed to me at least, was the difference between India and Australia in that crunch match was the fielding. India dropped catches and weren't as polished or athletic in the field as their rivals. And in close games, that can be the difference, can't it? Is that a fair call?
Yes, Brian, we can see the fielding played its part, especially in the last over where the match seemed to be getting close. Kaur was fighting a low battle, and Australia gave away two singles to Kaur and kept her in the non-strike rate. I think they tightened the screws, got two run-outs too. They held on to the chances early on. I think that gave those much innings needed breakthroughs in the early part of that Indian batting innings. India could have done better if we look at the standards in fielding, but even in normal days, Australia are miles ahead, and they just got rewarded in terms of result as well.
And what about India's failure to make the last four, Subhash? Four-time semi-finalists. They were runners-up in Australia in 2020. It's actually the first time they failed to reach the knockout stage since 2016. All this despite having the biggest player pool and the Women's Premier League. How on earth could this have happened?
One bad result, Brian. I think the game against New Zealand proved to be decisive. In theory, before the tournament, I think Australia versus India, the last match was supposed to be the decider to decide the group winners. But India failed to show up in that first match. And as I mentioned earlier, the margin of the defeat, it wouldn't have been enough even if they had beaten Australia. And I think the White Ferns, they needed to falter, which didn't happen. And I think this is not a good result for the country that has been investing so much in women's cricket. Hopefully, this won't be an issue or any changes in the plan programs, though. But I think India, they have a good team. Just a couple of bad results, and especially that match against New Zealand, that cost them dear.
Subhash, what about that Group B scenario with West Indies losing their first match by 10 wickets, let's not forget, to South Africa, yet they rallied and it all came down to the final group game between West Indies and England. West Indies won by 6 wickets and ended up topping the group. What went so right for West Indies and so wrong with England?
Well, the batting approach, I should say, the way West Indies batted in the power play, I think that was a difference that England couldn't do. If you look at the approach that they took, the drops really helped West Indies, especially the second over drop. I think had that catch from Dunkley been taken, I think Kiana Joseph would have been back in the hut and the scenario would have been changed. But after that, they just keep on giving their shots. They played with freedom. We see Haley Matthews pushing Kiana to take the strike, keep the strike, just keep hitting. And both of them got their half century and the game was already done before they got back into the hut. If you look at the England innings, I think 34 runs in power play was never going to be enough in that pitch, but they needed their bowler to step up and they couldn't do it.
Yes, and they needed their fielders to catch as well, and they couldn't do that either. Kiana Joseph, 52 from 38 balls. Haley Matthews, 50 from 38 balls. They hit 3 sixes between them and 13 fours, a partnership of 102, and that really went a long way to beating England and knocking them out of the tournament. Subhash, on the theme of teams like West Indies and South Africa who've done well, what about New Zealand? Aside from a comprehensive loss to Australia, they've impressed against every other side, and after all the talk over the past year or so about them being an ageing lineup, they found in 20-year-old Georgia Plimmer at the top of the order, a real star for the present and the future. She made 34 in the win over India and an excellent 53 from 44 balls against Sri Lanka. And then there's 23-year-old spinner Eden Carson. She's got 5 wickets in 4 matches.
Yeah, they're throwing the team effort finally. I think the build of the tournament, that was not great for them. There was dissatisfaction within the team on their performance, and we can see why there was so. There's a talent in so they just needed the delivery, and we've seen that throughout the group stage. Plymouth has set the tone for the middle order. She's hit hard. She's got the runs as well, and there have been responsibilities carried on from the middle order as well. If you look at the bowling, young Carson, I think she's been impressive getting wickets, and that match against Pakistan, I think that's the pick of all, defending 110. She got dangerous early areas in the second over, and I think that's absolutely class spell for the T20.
What about the sides or players that have disappointed you both? Who are they and what's gone wrong in your opinions? John, first of all?
Well, I think I just reiterate what's been said about India faltering under pressure. And Richard Gosh, 19 runs in 4 innings, just about sums it all up for them. I think Sri Lanka as dark horses never really got out of the blocks. Chamari Atapatu, big disappointment with only 42 runs in 4 innings. And I think as a general note, we mentioned it before, but the catching has been poor. And Pakistan in the last match against New Zealand, I reckon to have dropped 8 catches alone in that innings.
Yes, not very good from them, unfortunately. Subas, what about you? Who's disappointed you?
Yeah, it's India as a team and Samari. I think India's batter, apart from Corver, are not present in the situation. They could have been a debated tournament had they fired. And regarding Samari, I think as a batter, he was lost for the first three matches. And the most important ones, if you look at Sri Lanka and what they're targeting to get a only double figure, came against New Zealand and she battled till 14th over with just 35 runs on board. I think much was expected from her.
South Africa going through in Group B in second place behind the West Indies, but crucially ahead of England. And they now face Australia in the semi-final. Do you give them any hopes at all there, Subas?
Well, they would have liked to face Australia in the finals, but if you were going to win the title, you would need to beat the best of the teams, and it's going to be a final before the final. Even for Australia, I think the injuries hasn't helped them, but they do have backups. We saw Grace Harris stepping up top of the order. Beth Mooney, I think she kept the wickets, but Ali Saheli's fitness is going to be real concern. But if you look at South Africa, Tasman Brett, Laura Wolbert, both have runs amongst them. So I say final before the final, whoever wins is one step into the winners' trophy.
Well, the two sides who reached the tournament via the qualifying event, that's Sri Lanka and Scotland, were the only two teams that finished winless. I just wonder, does that suggest a gap between the leading sides and the next level? Or is that simply something that can be covered off fairly quickly, especially if Scotland play more against better sides? You just look at Ireland over the past summer for an example of that, after they beat both England and Sri Lanka in their home season. John?
Well, for Scotland, it was a major learning experience, and they've admitted that much. They do need to play more often against stronger teams to develop. Whether that will happen and how long it will take is an open question. I think for Sri Lanka, it seems like a step backwards. But then, not everyone wins all of the time, unless you're Australia.
That's the next question for you, I guess. Let's pick a winner from here. John, first of all, any thoughts on that one? Given you just mentioned Australia, I'm guessing you reckon they're top of the shop in that regard.
You're right there, and still Australia for me. They seem to have all of the angles covered and strength in depth. Now needed, of course, with Alyssa Healy's injury. Despite a statement that they're going to keep it monitored, she does look to be out of the tournament.
Subas, how about you? Can you go any further than Australia as a winner?
They're hurt, but I think the quality they possess, there should not be a problem for them. At the moment, it's Australia and their depth.
Well, by the time of our next show, we'll know which side has lifted the title. Will Australia retain the trophy, or will a different team get their hands on the prize? We'll report back at the Wicket. As we record this podcast, the second test of the three-match series between Pakistan and England is underway in Multan at the same venue and even on the same pitch as the first test. And we'll discuss that second match of the series in our next episode. As for the first test, well, it produced some truly remarkable and record-breaking cricket as England won by an innings and 47 runs with more than 2 sessions to spare. Despite conceding 556 in the first innings, they became the first side in history to concede such a big first-up score and still win by an innings. Pakistan's first batting effort included 300s from opener Abdullah Shafiq, captain Shan Masood at number 3 and Salman Ali Agha in the middle order, but their efforts were put in the shade by a truly remarkable performance from England's batters. Harry Brook made 317, becoming the first England batter in 34 years to achieve a triple hundred, while Joe Root scored 262 and the pair added 454 for the fourth wicket. That eclipsed the record of Colin Cowdrey and Peter May of 411 against the West Indies, which had stood for 67 years. England made a monumental 823 for 7 before declaring, and also scored their runs at an astonishing 5.49 runs per over, an incredible feat, even allowing for a dreadfully benign surface that had little in it for the bowlers. That allowed for time to try and bowl out Pakistan a second time, and they did so despite 50s from Salman Ali Agha and Ahmad Jamal, as Pakistan were frankly demoralised by their experience at the hands of Root and Brook. John, so many records by England, but before we talk about Harry Brook, let's touch upon Joe Root, who, during the course of the innings, became the highest run scorer in England history going past Sir Alistair Cook's haul of 12,472 runs. By the end of the test, Root had 12,664, and he's now fifth on the all-time list behind Tendulkar, Ponting, Kallis and Dravid. A word on Root's innings and his achievement.
One statistic from his innings stands out. He scored only a quarter of his runs in boundaries, 17 fours. And I think this displays probably some sort of record, but its physical qualities, the resilience of his nature that he's always possessed, even when the captaincy wasn't going well. He is an artist at work, particularly in that area between extra cover and third man. Root's a popular cricketer. He's upright in pose and person, admired and respected. It's a tremendous achievement, and thankfully he shows no sign of wanting it to end.
Indeed, an astonishing display of longevity, both at the crease this time and over the course of his career. Subas, Joe Root is 33 years old. He's just over 3,000 runs behind Sachin Tendulkar's mark of 15,921 test runs. Can he scale that mountain and surpass the great Tendulkar?
Brian, this is Joe Root rejuvenated and aspiring to be better than ever. I think he's enjoying one of the best cricket, and at this rate, I think it will look likely he'll topple the little master. Scoring runs for fun has prioritized the longer format, and he possesses healthy 45 average there in subcontinent where batters have found it hard. And if he goes along the same line, why not? He's been averaging 65 over the last 2 years. And as John just mentioned, his physical status is physically fit, and I don't see why not.
And John, what about Harry Brook? A triple hundred and almost at a runner ball in incredibly punishing heat, and after spending the first 5 sessions in the field. We were critical of aspects of his game at the back end of the English summer, but this was a wonderful achievement and an incredible feat, wasn't it? Where do you place it as an innings?
Certainly was an incredible feat, and I think it's a fitting reflection of his undoubted talent. When he's in full flow, he makes batting look effortless. Anyone who scores a triple hundred in a test match, and there have been 28 of them now, has achieved something very special and outstanding. People will point to the flat, lifeless pitch and the flagging demoralised bowlers, but as the saying goes, you've still got to score the runs. Brook is the second fastest 300 in terms of balls faced, 319, but at 25, he's not the youngest. That honour falls to the great Gary Sobers when he was 21 years and 213 days old, ironically, against Pakistan.
John, it is a testament to Brook's fitness as well that he got that milestone, isn't it? He spent time away from the game at the start of the year. Working on that fitness was something he focused on, and this was his reward.
Yes, he tried his hands at spring baseball training with St. Louis Cardinals. While he was watching the baseball hitters, he realised that the main lesson he was going to take away was to get a stronger base, using his legs more for power when hitting the ball. The only way he could achieve that was to spend more time in the gym.
Well, his time in the gym certainly has paid off, but Subas, on the other side of the coin, Pakistan cricket, well, that's in turmoil, it seems. Off the back of this loss, Babar Azam, Nazim Shah and Shaheen Shah Afridi were all left out for the second test. And while you can understand the changes in the bowling personnel, given the punishment they received and the quick turnaround between tests, what on earth has happened to Babar? His scores of 30 and 5 in the first match were a continuation of the wretched run of form he's on. He was once regarded as one of the best players in the world, but now he's a shadow of his former self. Why? And is leaving him out the right move?
He was often likened to be along the same list of Fab Fours, the likes of Kohli, Kane, Root and Smith, but that seems to be far off now. There's no question on his talent, but I think what's been happening off the pitch in Pakistan has hampered him mentally. Lots of noises off the field. That's taken a toll on him, and change in captaincy role, coming back, then again being stripped of, and now all of a sudden out of the team as a whole. I think it will be hard for him to overcome, but the identity of champions, as we know, is seen in such situations, and time will tell where he moves. I think where the Pakistan cricket takes him, but for now I think he deserves more time and time to prove himself in the pitch.
John, with the batters for England taking the headlines, it's easy to forget the contributions of the bowlers to take 20 wickets on a flat, lifeless surface. There were 4 wickets for fast bowler Bryden Carse on debut and 7 on comeback for Jack Leach, and he comprehensively out-bowled his spin colleague Shoaib Bashir. A word on Carse and Leach?
It's a remarkable return for Leach, both physically and figuratively. He's not played a test since January 2024 after suffering a knee injury, one of many career injuries. It included a stress fracture of the back in mid-2023. It did look as if he was being phased out, but he's come back from injury again to deliver customary control in testing circumstances. Course has said that thoughts of an England test call-up kept him going during his 3-month-long ban for betting this summer. In the match, he bowled 38 overs accurately in high temperatures, often at speeds of 90 miles an hour, including spells of bounces when instructed. And he said, like Brooke, that fitness work undertaken during his ban has paid off and that he's returned refreshed.
Well, outstanding from both of them, and they were key people in terms of that victory in the first test. Subas, Pakistan announced yet another new selection panel after the first test loss, and this one will include Aleem Dar, the retiring international umpire, Aqib Javid, Azhar Ali and Hassan Chima, plus the captain and coach, and Asad Shafiq, the former test batter. It's a big panel. Doesn't this simply lead to confusion, I wonder? Shouldn't selection be concentrated in a smaller group with advisors to help if the selection panel can't see every ball bowled in domestic action?
But I fail to understand what's going on in the mind of PCB. I think it's been a couple of weeks that they opted to have a smaller selection panel and comprised of those who are involved within the team. But then again, we hear this, the level of instability for a full member nation is absurd at this moment, even by the identity that Pakistan has. I think the decline in performance is not just a coincidence, but a result of such steps being taken by the board time and again.
And John, what about the second test being played on the same surface as the first? It's an odd decision, or is it? As Pakistan, I'm sure, will be hoping the surface deteriorates, as surely if they keep playing England on flat pitches, the same results are likely to occur, aren't they?
It seems as if the PCB has only got one working international ground. If demonstrations on behalf of Imran Khan materialise in Islamabad, making Rawalpindi unapproachable, and it may be they've only got one wicket in Multan. The sort of rather sarcastic comments by Pakistan's assistant coach, Azhar Mahmood, were clear. He said, "Our instruction to the curator for the first test was that the ball should spin after the second day, but the pitch didn't take until even the fifth day. Hopefully, the ball will begin to take turn on the 9th day." I don't know where this leaves Tony Hemming's integrity, but obviously PCB is gambling that footholds and wearing pitch will favour their extra spinners. I think they've got 7 options in the side. But of course, it's not much use if they can't score enough runs. Stokes seems unfazed by it all, but I guess desperate times means desperate measures for Pakistan. Some jobs were on the line, and that meant those high-profile sacrifices that we've just referred to.
Well, we'll chat about that second test next time here at the Wicket. On the previous episode, we discussed the first of 3 2020 internationals between India and Bangladesh's men, with India looking at a new era in the shortest international format, following the retirement of Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, 2 bulwarks of the batting for so many years. Well, that new era has begun, and how? In matches 2 and 3 of the series, India posted 221 for 3 and then a monumental 297 for 6 to overwhelm Bangladesh by 86 runs and 133 runs. Incredible margins in this format and at this level. In Game 2 in Delhi, Nitish Kumar Reddy with 74 from 34 balls, and Rinku Singh, who made 53 from only 29 deliveries, added 108 in only 8 overs before 7 bowlers shared the spoils during Bangladesh's reply. But impressive though that performance was by India, it was nothing compared to the final match of the series in Hyderabad, when they swamped the touring side under a boundary blitz. Sanju Samson made 111 in 47 balls. Captain Surya Kumar Yadav hammered 75 from 35 balls, and that duo added 173 in only 11 overs for the second wicket, with Rian Parag then scoring 34 from 13 deliveries and Hardik Pandya 47 in 18. It was a horror show for Bangladesh as India piled up that score just shy of 300. Tauhid Hridoy with 63 not out from 47 balls, and Liton Das with 42 in 25 deliveries helped save face for Bangladesh, but it was a chastening loss. Subas, where do you start with this set of displays by India? They appear to be taking T20I cricket to a new level, don't they?
Yes, indeed. And I think they're reaping fruits of the IPL, Brian. The talent pool they have is next level, and the players that are in contention are now firing. The internal competition within the team means they get very little chance, and once they fire, I think they settle in. You can take Nitish Kumar as example. He's got the chance, he started firing, and looks like he's going to be the mainstay of the team. Rinku Singh, despite the World Cup snub, has just continued where he left off. The new look India looks threatening, and in that match, they look like they'll smash the record of the highest T20 total that belongs to Nepal. So a good thing that they didn't reach the 300 mark. And Hardik Pandya, I think, is just been brilliant. He's leading the identity of that fearless T20I team that India is molding.
John, what was your highlight or highlights of India's displays? It looks like the switch away from Rohit, Kohli and Ravindra Jadeja, who all retired from 2020 internationals after the World Cup win in July, has been a seamless one.
Yeah, very much so, especially when you consider that the likes of Mayank was playing for the first time since his injury in the IPL. Varun's coming back to the India 11 after 3 years. Now, apart from Samson's 100, I think Nitish Kumar Reddy's performance has shone through for me, especially in the second match with his 74 and 2 for 23. We know the depth of talent in India, and here's the proof.
Subas, what about Bangladesh, though? Things were looking so positive for them at the T20 World Cup when fast bowler Tanzim Hassan Shakib and leg-spinning all-rounder Rishad Hossain impressed. Is it unfair to be too critical, given A, the quality of the opposition here, and B, the difference in the pitches between the bowler-friendly World Cup surfaces and these flat ones in India? Or should Bangladesh fans be concerned?
It's the quality of opposition mainly. We spoke about how they've been playing in another level. I think India's depth in talent, the talent they possess, it's tough for any teams. And Bangladesh, I think with entertainment sides in priority, the pitch that was in place, I think that supported the batters more. And we know Bangladesh are a bowling heavy side. They don't have that batters, the quality that India possess. So Bangladesh, they themselves have a good pool of talent, and they'll need their batter to step up in such conditions. The bowlers don't get much support. I think it's the batters they should take more responsibility and help the bowlers to even up the things.
And John, Mahmudullah's retired from 2020 internationals at the end of this series. A word on him and what he's brought to Bangladesh cricket?
He made his T20 debut in 2007, so his career in that format's just over 17 years, the third longest after Shakib Al Hassan and Sean Williams of Zimbabwe. And since 2010, he has been one of the stalwarts of Bangladesh cricket. He's batted in the middle order and bowled off spin. He's also a top fielder. And during that time, he's aggregated over 11,000 runs, 160 wickets, and taken 170 catches in international cricket across the formats. A player very difficult to replace.
Well, we do expect to see Mahmudullah in the ICC Champions Trophy next year. But ahead of that, Bangladesh are in test action against South Africa, with the first of 2 tests starting on the 21st of October, while India are due to face New Zealand in 3 tests, the first of which is starting in Bengaluru as we record this podcast. Before we move on, let's talk about aspects of the India-New Zealand and Bangladesh-South Africa Test series. First of all, let's look at Bangladesh-South Africa, and it promises to be an emotional match in Dhaka, with Shakib Al Hassan set to retire from Test cricket following the completion of that opening game. The left-arm spinning all-rounder has consistently courted controversy and has now reportedly shifted his family to the USA in the wake of the political turmoil in the country that saw the government overthrown. Let's not forget he was an MP at the time of the regime change. He posted a long message on Facebook ahead of the Test, saying he was hoping for a friendly and non-controversial sign-off, and if he gets that, then it would reflect his monumental contribution to Bangladesh cricket. In tests alone, he has 4,609 runs and 246 wickets, and in all 3 international formats, that figure balloons to a total of 14,730 runs and 712 wickets for his country. John, we've often spoken about Shakib's controversies on this podcast, but there's no denying his record, is there? It's outstanding.
No, there isn't any denying that. He's Bangladesh's greatest cricketer, and his records as an all-rounder are unlikely to be overtaken anytime soon. A wily bowler and an aggressive batter, he appeared often at the top of ICC all-rounder rankings across the formats, and he's played franchise cricket since 2011. But fines and bans, various clashes with players and umpires have dogged his career, and the worst of which was a 2-year ban, 1 year suspended in 2019 for failing to report a corrupt approach.
John, how do you think Shakib will be received in this final test match for him?
Well, the question is by whom? Spectators, the authorities? I would say mixed. Depends if the spectators wish to honour his cricket career or his short-lived political career. He's concerned about safe entry and exit from Bangladesh and security at the ground. Former is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Law, the latter by the Bangladesh Cricket Board. It does seem that the ministers asked him to communicate his political stance in return for safe passage, and this afforded him an opportunity to apply his own PR by apologising for his silence that you've referred to. Now, once again, it really is all about him. It seems that the security measures for which he's asked will be in place, and I wonder if typically he may just play the first test and then return to the States.
Well, Subas, Shakib used his Facebook post, as we mentioned already, to apologise for his silence during the protests that left so many dead and injured and the regime changed. How do you think the public will react to him in this final test?
Well, it'll be interesting to see who will dominate the spectator zone. Will it be the cricket fans or will it be those citizens who are rightly enraged for the political situation? But I think the fans should be applauding for his all the services, the role in taking Bangladesh cricket to the next level. I think he has been an ambassador for Bangladesh cricket for a long time, and he's not put a foot wrong as a player in the field, as a captain. He enjoyed success. At times, his temper has been an issue, but as a player, he's served Bangladesh cricket at his absolute best. And even in this new global franchise scenario, he's represented Bangladesh and opened doors for few talents going forward. So I think he deserves the best farewell, and he is the best Bangladesh cricketer, as Jon mentioned.
Well, South Africa have issues of their own going into the Test series, one they need to win and win well to retain any hope of qualifying for the Test World Championship final. They have 2 tests each against Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Pakistan, and probably need to win all 6 to hope for any chance at all of a top 2 spot in the table that would give them a place in next summer's Lord's showpiece. John, there's no Temba Bavuma in the first test after an arm injury, which he sustained in the One-Day International Series win against Ireland in Abu Dhabi earlier this month. And fast bowler Nandre Berger is out with a back injury. But Keshav Maharaj, who was so impressive in their last Test series win against the West Indies, and Kagiso Rabada, he's on 299 Test wickets. They're back. Can they win this series 2-0 and win all 6 of their upcoming tests, do you think?
It's a big ask to win all 6, as there are so many variables and imponderables to compute. They will be optimistic against Bangladesh, unless Shakib scripts a fairy tale ending. Sri Lanka will make it tough and are equally motivated because they're in 3rd place in the World Test Championship, although South Africa, I think, have home advantage. And who knows what shape Pakistan will be in come December in South Africa.
Yes, a lot of water to go under the bridge before we get to that particular series. Let's talk India and New Zealand now. And on paper, this looks like a home banker. India haven't lost a home series since they were beaten by Alistair Cook's England more than a decade ago. And New Zealand are in turmoil following the resignation of Tim Southee as captain, and they're off the back of 4 straight Test losses. But Subas, perhaps the most interesting aspect to the build-up to this series has been the elevation of Jasprit Bumrah to the Indian vice-captaincy. With Rohit Sharma a doubt for the first Test in Australia later this year for personal reasons, is this a signal that Bumrah is the next in line?
Seems the case for now, but I think with workload management and the injury history, I don't think he'll be able to handle the role in long term. And Bumrah doesn't have much experience leading the team. He's into his 30s. I think India should look for the more Shubman Gill. I think he could be a better option. He knows how to lead the team. He's termed as future of India's batting. So why not give him a chance by giving the vice captaincy role?
Well, John, India have traditionally tended to be captained by batters or spin bowlers. There are exceptions, of course, such as Kapil Dev. But what do you make of this move to Bumrah as vice captain? Is it India trying to Poppy Australia. Of course, they've got a very successful fast bowling captain in Pat Cummins. Does it surprise you, especially with Shubman Gill, as Subas mentioned, also in the squad?
Yes, it was a surprise, given that he's a bowler. You mentioned Kapil Dev. I think probably more of an all-rounder, a bowler who battered. As you mentioned, same questions, eyebrows were raised about Pat Cummins' appointment, and we know how that turned out. Bumrah does have prior vice-captain experience against Sri Lanka in 2022, South Africa in 23-24, and England in 2024, whilst he was captain against England in 2022 in that postponed test match. Shubman Gill doesn't have that much experience, but I suspect he's probably earmarked for the longer term, as Subas mentioned, and that Bumrah is filling a gap.
The West Indies men's team are on a white ball tour of Sri Lanka with 3 2020 internationals in Dambulla, followed by 3 one-day internationals in Pallekele. As we record this episode, the second of the 2020 internationals is being played, and we'll chat about that match next time. But for now, let's speak about the first short-form game, with the West Indies winning that by 5 wickets with 5 balls to spare. It almost goes without saying that Kamindu Mendis made runs for Sri Lanka. He really is in an incredible run of form across formats at the moment. He made 51 from 40 balls at number 4, and with captain Charith Asalanka making 59 from 35 deliveries, the pair added 82 from 8 overs, but only 39 came from the final 4 overs, as both set batters were dismissed. Then Brandon King and Evan Lewis shared an opening stand of 107 in 9 overs in reply, and that pair really snuffed out the match as a contest, with both of them reaching aggressive 50s. John, there was a debut for West Indies seaman swing bowler Shamar Springer, and Shamar Joseph impressed with a new ball for the touring side with 1 for 27. What were your main takeaways from that opening match from a West Indies perspective?
Well, 180 is a formidable target. King and Lewis made short work of it, so that's good news for the West Indies. They were pegged back a bit in the middle, so maybe slight concern there. But one reason for that was the ubiquitous Kamindu. 2 overs, 1 for 14, including switching arms from left-arm spin to off-breaks. Not only is he remarkable form with the bat, he's quite an exceptional cricketer.
Subas, what about Sri Lanka? After the euphoria of Test success, this was back to earth with a bump, wasn't it?
A bit of a bump, but if you look at West Indies and their T20 team, it's a different level of cricket, the individual talent they have. I think that's unmatched to any other team. The way Lewis and King approached the power play, I think that set the tone. Sri Lanka's bowlers could have done better. They changed their plans. They went for spin in the power play, but that didn't work as well. They had the moments in the game when the partnership between Kamindu and Aslanka set, but they couldn't finish it on a higher note. So I think they should change that moment to momentum, and I think they still have chance. Nothing big surprise, nothing big of a shock. So I think that they'll look forward to the next game.
The good news is that a full match was played that first game, despite the fact this is usually one of the wettest months of the year in Sri Lanka, and indeed in Colombo there have been some floods. In all fairness, the 2020 internationals are taking place in Dambulla, to the north of the country, which is traditionally known as the dry zone. Let's keep our fingers crossed for no rain to spoil the rest of the action, and we'll report back again on the tour in our next episode. Starting on Friday, the 18th of October, the Asian Cricket Council Men's T20 Emerging Asia Cup gets underway in Muscat, a short-form tournament with the A teams of the 5 ICC full members in the region. That's Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. They're up against the hosts Oman, Hong Kong and the UAE. John, to start with, just explain the relevance of this tournament as you see it.
Well, it's the 6th edition of the tournament, and Pakistan are defending champions. The full member teams are a mix of emerging talent, those with international or IPL experience already, all of whom are keen to show that they can take the next step up. And for the associate nations, it is a chance to test themselves against full member teams. As we know, that exposure is vital to their development. tournament. And the teams are a blend of experience and youth. I mean, for example, the UAE is led by the experienced Basil Hamid.
Yes, it'll be a good test for those three associate teams. But Subas, just explain why Nepal, consistently one of Asia's top 2020 international sides among associates and a team that played in the World Cup in June and July, aren't there this time?
We know that poor result in the ACC Men's Premier Cup in Muscat in April, where Nepal came fourth in 3 years race, winning 4-4 in group stage. Then Nepal went on to lose to UAE in semis and Hong Kong in the third place playoff. Will be hard to see the updates of the tournament manifesting. We could have been there.
Yes, could have and perhaps should have, as you say. But anyway, we'll be back with the first part of that tournament in our next show. And finally, gentlemen, as we always do, let's hear from you about something that's caught your attention this week in the world of cricket. John, first of all?
Two things from Australia. Cameron Green, of course, has had a back operation and is out for the Australian summer, which is a blow for him and for the Australian team. At the same time, 19 years old Sam Constas is the flavour of the month, back-to-back hundreds in the Sheffield Shield, and spoken of in the same breath at that age as Ricky Ponting and Michael Clarke. But I also have to report that Saudi Arabia is under consideration for the IPL auction, along with several other Gulf cities. The issue appears to be hotel space, apparently, for the IPL entourage.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, John. Subas, what about you?
Well, the signings for the Nepal Premier League's inaugural edition has started to come up with coaching duties. Australian Brad House has signed for Sudur Paschim Royals. We have former Chennai deputy coach Rajiv Kumar, former Nepal coach Pubhadutta Sanaik has coming to Janakpur Bold. So with the festival holiday just coming to an end, I think the names, especially the players, will start to flow now.
Well, exciting times for cricket in Nepal, and we look forward to that Nepal Premier League that's going to happen at the end of November and the beginning of December. That's all then for this episode of The Wicket. We'll be back soon with more cricket chat from the Gulf region, Asia and worldwide. As ever, please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment on what you've heard wherever you get your podcast. But for now, this is Brian Murgatroyd along with Jon Pike and Subas Humagain saying thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye.
All right, goodbye.
Goodbye.